From KAMR Local 4 News, your local election headquarters. This is Politics Today with Jackie Kingston.
Now is the time to talk politics. Just more than a week after more than 30 people died in El Paso and Dayton, we'll hear from presidents, senators, candidates, and more. And after nearly 700 people are arrested in ICE raids in Mississippi, the lingering question for law enforcement is what to do with all the kids of the adults who are now in custody. We'll begin, of course, this week in El Paso and Dayton. The two communities that lost more than 30 lives and saw many more injured continue to mourn a week after those mass shootings. In El Paso, 22 people were killed, more than 24 were injured in a mass shooting at a Walmart. The shooter was from the Metroplex. He allegedly traveled to El Paso specifically to target Latinx people. He's been charged with capital murder and is being held without bond. Just 13 hours later, in Dayton, Ohio, a gunman entered a bar and killed 9 people, and 14 others were injured by gunfire. The gunman was killed by officers within just 30 seconds after firing his first shot, but in that time he was able to fire 41 rounds. Last Wednesday, President Trump visited both communities, still mourning after those mass shootings. He went first to Dayton, then to El Paso. Whitney Wild has more.
President Trump spent Wednesday visiting two cities struck by grief and tragedy in the wake of mass shootings over the weekend.
We had an amazing day. There are a lot of heroes. A lot of people did just incredible work.
In El Paso, Texas, the president visited a hospital and an emergency operations center to meet with law enforcement officials.
We met with also the doctors, the nurses, the medical staff. They have done an incredible job, both places.
Earlier in the day, the president met with local leaders in Dayton, Ohio, before making a stop at a hospital there, where he met with medical personnel and some of those affected by last weekend's mass shootings. On the ground, the president's visits were met with both protesters and supporters.
We still have police officers trying to get around, first responders working. We have a lot of folks that are coming to the memorial. And this only bogs everything down.
I realize that there's a lot of emotional pain and concern over his visit, but I'm the mayor of all of El Paso, and I feel like it's my duty, obligation, my fiduciary duty to meet with the President of the United States.
The president said Wednesday that he is open to talking about some aspects of gun control legislation.
I'm looking to do background checks. I think background checks are important.
But it's unclear if Congress can reach a consensus. The House passed 2 gun control bills, but the Senate hasn't voted on either one. In El Paso, Texas, I'm Whitney Wild.
When addressing the recent mass shootings, President Trump in part blamed mental illness as the sort of the problem. That's a claim that's not backed up by science. California Congressman Eric Swalwell says many other countries have mental illness, all of them, in fact, just like here in the United States. What other countries don't have, he says, is easy access to assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. Former President Obama also responding last week. In a statement, the 44th president said, quote, "We should soundly reject language coming out of the mouths of any of our leaders that feeds a climate of fear and hatred or normalizes racist sentiments." Obama did not specifically name President Trump. The statement came hours after President Trump delivered that address from the White House denouncing bigotry and white supremacy. Governor Greg Abbott announcing the state of Texas will be providing more than $5.5 million in immediate financial assistance for the community of El Paso. For people in the El Paso community, it's a step toward healing. Governor Abbott made the announcement on Wednesday. After meeting with El Paso leaders, the governor identified several issues concerning the community, including taking a closer look at how it prepares for and handles terrorism, and how to address hate and racism both in the community and online, and gun safety. The governor said he'll begin roundtables on those issues within the month.
The time for talking is over. The time for action began today. Know that we as leaders are going to step up and do something to solve what happened here.
He has not said he's going to call a special session, but that is, of course, in the governor's realm of control. He could do that whenever he wanted. Texas Senators Ted Cruz and John Cornyn joined the president in El Paso on Wednesday. Here's what they had to say in response.
El Paso is coming together, and El Paso will come through this stronger after this horrific attack than even before.
Senator McConnell, the majority leader of the Senate, has tasked members of the Senate to come together to see what sort of legislative responses might be appropriate. And some of the work we've done past, I think is helpful, but it's not, it doesn't cover something quite like this.
Democratic presidential hopeful and former Texas Representative Beto O'Rourke stopping his campaign, heading back to his hometown to be with his family and his community there in El Paso. Here's some of how he responded to the shooting this week.
We are sorry for their loss. We are with them, and this entire community is with them. This binational community. We were at the makeshift memorial outside of Walmart yesterday, and it was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen.
200 mayors, including those in Dayton and El Paso, plus 9 more from here in Texas, urged the Senate to return to the Capitol, saying our nation can no longer wait. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell on Thursday rejecting the idea of reconvening the Senate. They're on their summer vacation, saying calling senators back now would just lead to people, quote, scoring points and nothing would happen. Instead, the GOP leader wants to spend the August recess talking with Democratic and Republican leaders to see what may be possible. After what federal officials say was a year-long criminal investigation, immigration authorities arrested about 680 undocumented immigrants in 6 different cities in Mississippi on Wednesday. And while some of those arrested have already been released, the arrests have also left some local officials scrambling to take care of the kids of those arrested. Kristen Holmes has the report.
Children begging to see their parents.
Governments, please put your hearts. Let my parents be free with everybody else.
After immigration officials rounded up hundreds of undocumented workers across Mississippi. One federal prosecutor calling the sweep of 7 food processing plants the largest single state immigration enforcement operation in the history of the United States.
Through the hard work of these men and women in law enforcement, we're once again becoming a nation of law and order.
But many officials voicing concern about the children, some of whom returned to empty homes after their first day of school. Their parents swept up in the sting.
We had some kids that didn't have anywhere to go, and so we did work with local community organizations to make sure that the boys and girls had a safe place to go.
According to Immigration and Customs Enforcement, more than 300 migrant parents have been released, and some placed on ankle monitoring during the immigration proceedings. Meanwhile, communities and organizations rallying around the children, including this gym in Forest, Mississippi, whose owner welcomed them for the night.
We're going to have bedding available for them, and we're going to get food for them just to get them through the night. And if they need transport to school in the morning, we can arrange that as well.
I'm Kristen Holmes reporting.
Government, please put your heart. Democrats called those deportations especially cruel following the El Paso shootings where Hispanics were specifically targeted. All right, do you remember the House drama from last week? A lot happened surrounding that this week, including a full-throated apology from the House Speaker. We have the latest from Austin next. I'm Jackie Castro. You're watching Politics Today from your local election headquarters. Accusations of bribery at the highest levels of state government. We told you last week the Texas House Investigating Committee is launching an investigation into its own speaker, Angleton Republican Dennis Bonnen. Now, Texas Democrats are getting in on the scandal, filing a lawsuit stemming from a meeting at the Capitol. So before we dive into this, just a refresher, let's catch you up on everyone who hasn't been following as closely as we have. On June 12th, at the Capitol, Speaker Bonnen met with the leader of a political action committee. His name is Michael Quinn Sullivan, MQS, from Empower Texans. Chair of the House Republican Caucus, Dustin Burrows, was also there. Sullivan is accusing Bonnen of a quid pro quo suggestion. Bonnen would give Empower Texans media passes for closer access to lawmakers on the House floor. And in return, Sullivan's group would spend money to oust 10 incumbent Republicans. Bonnen denies that, yet apologized last week for what he called saying terrible things. Sullivan secretly recorded the conversation and has stirred up some outrage over it. Many lawmakers and sources have confirmed to our colleague Phil Prazen that that tape does in fact exist.
All 3 of these parties have motives. The Speaker of the House wants to stay Speaker of the House and wants to return with more allies after the November election. Sullivan wants those Republicans to be more conservative than they are. And then the Democrats want to upend Republican rule in the state and take control of the Texas House themselves. And the next step of this battle will play out in court. Did Speaker Bonnen commit a crime offering media credentials for campaign work against other House members? Longtime Houston criminal defense attorney Dick DeGuerin says no.
People don't want to see sausage being made because it tastes so good, but it looks awful. And There are political deals being done everywhere.
In short, Bonin doesn't control media credentials. The Texas House Administration Committee does. Bonin appoints that committee and has influence over it, but doesn't directly run it.
That's not bribery. That's influence. And it's not corrupt influence.
Still, the Texas Democratic Party made it a civil issue Thursday by filing a lawsuit, claiming Bonin and Sullivan created a political committee without registering as such to the state.
Without disclosure, without public information about who's spending money on what, is telling somebody else to use their dark money on a particular race. So that is really questionable.
One of the goals for the Democratic Party is to preserve and publicize Sullivan's recording.
Texans deserve to know what the Speaker of the House said. Texans deserve to know what the Republican caucus chair said. They deserve to know what was happening in their Texas capital.
Bonin and Sullivan did not respond to KXAN's request for comment, but Sullivan tweeted that he is a whistleblower and is being victimized by a frivolous lawsuit by the Democrats, and he looks forward to kicking, quote, donkey butt in court. So far, no criminal charges have been filed. The Texas Rangers have not received a criminal complaint. The Travis County District Attorney's Office does not have jurisdiction in this issue, and the Brazoria County District Attorney's Office from Bonin's home county has not yet returned my phone call. At the Capitol, Phil Prazen, KXAN News.
The Texas House General Investigating Committee will hold a public hearing on those allegations coming up actually tomorrow. When voters decided to give Amarillo College a $90 million bond to renovate the downtown campus and more in May, there was concern that the Amarillo Senior Citizen Center would be shut down because of that expansion. Coming up this week, the Senior Citizen Center spoke with us, explaining what their options are and how, regardless of how they vote, they'll be losing space. Those details next. Welcome back. The Amarillo City Council has approved an increase in fees for the Warford after-school program. Starting in January, the monthly cost for members will increase to $85 per month. Members who qualify for free or reduced lunch will pay $35. Non-members will pay $95 per month and $45 for those who qualify for free or reduced lunch. Now, those rates will increase again August 1st of 2020. Member rates will increase up to $170 per month. Non-members would have to pay up to $190 a month. The city says the increase is to help keep that center running. The city also approved an ordinance banning the commercial operation of ride-sharing services such as rentable scooters or bikes. You've seen them in other communities around the area. The ordinance prohibits a company from pre-placing ride-sharing devices on city sidewalks. If a company does not want to provide ride-sharing for downtown, they have to first, or does want to do that rather, they first have to speak with the city council so they can establish some safety guidelines for those businesses. Back in May, Amarillo voters passed a nearly $90 million bond for Amarillo College, a combination of funds from a 2018 grant, and this bond will be used to create an innovation hub at the downtown campus. But the Amarillo Senior Citizen Center had concerns that they would have to move because of it. Here's Amarillo College President Dr. Russell Lowry Hart speaking with us back in April.
I think there was a lot of misinformation that we were kicking them out, and we're not. We're relocating them in another part of the building where we already have robust senior services and trying to find ways that we can offer even more partnership with them.
On Wednesday, members of the association voted to appeal to Amarillo College and ask for more time. Politics Today's Maggie Glenn explains.
We senior citizens have a place to come to talk and play pool. We look forward to it on a daily basis.
Playing pool is something seniors won't have to look forward to anymore if the Amarillo Senior Citizens Association doesn't get approval to remain at their current facility at Amarillo College's downtown campus. Amarillo College currently is allowing them to stay in this location for a few more months.
We have an email that we're guaranteed to stay in our current space through December of this year. 2019.
AC is also offering them an anchor space to move into and renovate with $500,000 from the bond, but it's a smaller space.
It is 1/5 of what we currently have,
which would mean getting rid of a lot of the association's programs.
We will have no cafeteria, so you couldn't feed any of the seniors. The food bank couldn't come here. The Honor Flight have their offices here. They couldn't have their offices here. We would lose our pool club, our quilters club.
That's why members today voted to present an alternative to AC, essentially asking for more time.
we could go to Amarillo College and ask out of the goodness of their heart for them to allow us to stay until December of 2020.
That would give us a year and a half-ish to find a place, building, or maybe find something that we could work where we could still provide this wonderful service to our seniors.
Judy Jackman says they will be presenting this to Amarillo College, and she's hopeful they will accept their request. In studio, Maggie Glenn, Politics Today. Jackie.
Maggie, thank you. We did reach out to Amarillo College for comment. We have not yet heard back from them. Coming up, a story that you haven't seen yet about our local elections administrators and the training that they do once a year down in Austin. How some of the new ways, rather, that they are working to make sure our votes are safe during the 2020 election and beyond. Last week, the Leadership Institute hosted a campaign school for Potter and Randall counties. The Texas Campaign School teaches people how to manage or contribute to a winning campaign. Attendees learned how to develop a campaign strategy, determine voting goals and voter targeting, create a compelling message, and fundraise for a campaign.
We're out here teaching people how to either run for office so that they can serve on that county commission and actually get the potholes filled, or talk to the school board, talk to the city council members, talk to the county commissioners about fixing the problems in our communities.
The Leadership Institute also has online trainings available. The people who are responsible for counting those votes and calling the winners, they have had some work to do too. And you may have missed it, but around 240 new laws regarding our election process were enacted after the previous legislative session. You may have missed them, but our local election officials, they did not. They get training every year to make sure they're on top of any changes in the laws, but also any new additions to security surrounding the voting process. The training takes place down in Austin, and we caught up with both Potter and Randall County elections administrators when they got back.
You know, most of the changes are very small. There are several things that are good for the voters. For example, we'll be posting on our website now the names of people who voted the day before in early voting. So as a voter, you can go and look and see that we have your name. And then we'll be posting those same names, or the names of people who voted on election day after they have voted. So it's kind of just a good assurance to the voter that their vote counted. So that's one of the neat ones that they have done for the voter, and creates a little bit more work for us, but we're happy to do it.
We're confident in what we do. We're confident in our voters. We're confident in our system. It's what we don't know that is troublesome. So we're constantly exploring new avenues, keeping our eyes open. We're, even as a whole county, we are exploring more cybersecurity options and looking at that aspect of things.
Lackey says the main focus was the election in 2020, but she doesn't want people to overlook the upcoming constitutional election that is happening in November. Some campaign-adjacent news now. Representative Hakeem Castro of San Antonio, Joaquin Castro, no, not the Castro who's running for president, it's his twin brother. He tweeted this week some criticism of some San Antonio donors to President Trump's campaign. 44 of the ones who have donated the maximum amount to the president and to their employers. He said it was sad to see so many business owners helping to fuel a campaign of hate that labels Hispanic immigrants as invaders. Democrats have drawn a connection between the president's rhetoric and the El Paso gunman. The Trump campaign, in turn, criticized the tweet and accused Castro of providing a target list for those who may wish to do those donors harm. Literally anyone can look up these campaign donations, which is why, say, journalists can ever donate to any campaign ever. I can't, I don't. No one who I work with can. It's not a thing. We have to remain unbiased, right? We do. It's publicly available because of a little Supreme Court case that you might remember. Republicans celebrated it, called Citizens United. It said under the First Amendment, money is a form of free speech. We are hosting a town hall with Governor Greg Abbott here on KAMR Local 4. The town hall event will have questions from moderators and from the live audience. It airs August 15th here on KAMR Local 4 from 7 to 8. Mark it on your calendar. We'll live stream it at myhighplains.com along with other coverage, and you can be a part of it. Just submit your video questions via social media. We have more information about submitting those questions for you on our website, myhighplains.com. We're back right after this. What's particularly shocking about things that happen like these mass shootings in Dayton and El Paso is the normalcy in which people were just going about their day to day. There was a little boy from Durango who was getting a wheelchair fitted for him in El Paso, so he had come up, you know, as people do there, It's a kind of a fluid border, and the little boy was getting his wheelchair. He was in the McDonald's and the Walmart when the shooting happened, and the little boy got out safely, so did his family, and there was another woman there, and she says that that wheelchair helped to shield her brother-in-law and then helped to get him and other people out of that Walmart and to safety. So, and then that little boy got his wheelchair back. So there are good things in this darkness. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.